It's Monday morning. You're at a desk, coffee getting cold, and you're scrolling through LinkedIn before the first meeting. And there it is, another so-called thought leadership post from a brand you've admired for years because of their straightforward, clear point of view. But everything about the post is screaming raw, unedited, AI-generated slop. The hook says, "This isn't just about productivity, it's about transformation." Then the M dashes, so many M dashes. Then the fancy words that sound impressive and say nothing. Leverage, synergies, propelling your mindset into the future. Then the emoji no human would ever use. Then the life-changing conclusion about how this post will transform your entire career if you just lean in. It all sounds like something. It all says nothing. Actually, it does say something. It says that in the interest of saving time and money, yet another company has pushed AI onto its marketing team without considering the cost to its brand. And the cost is real, because when you sound like everyone else, you don't just blend in. In the age of LLM search, you disappear. Today on Humans of AI, we're talking to Colin Kelton. He recently retired as the Global Chief Marketing Officer and Chief Communications Officer at Vanguard, where he spent 36 years. And the thing that's interesting about Colin isn't that he predicted AI. He didn't. What's interesting is that years before AI was even a conversation, he did the unglamorous work of rebuilding his entire marketing organization from the ground up. And when AI showed up, he was ready. Not because he saw it coming, because he'd already done the hard work.
If you've never spoken in a way that's distinctive, then you're not going to create it by putting AI on top. You still need the human interaction to do. And if you haven't done that already, then it's going to be really hard because the system's going to pick up everything that you've said before and put a bit of a spin on it, but say it again. And say it many, many, many times. It's like, well, it's just reproducing your lack of distinctiveness.
And he's about to tell us why your brand voice is the only moat you have left. Colin Kelton got his first job at Vanguard in 1990. He stayed for 36 years. In an industry where people job hop every 3 or 4, Colin's entire career is a study in consistency. And so was the brand he was protecting. Vanguard manages $13 trillion in other people's money. It's the second largest asset manager in the world. But what makes Vanguard different isn't the size, it's the structure. Vanguard is owned by its investors. There are no outside shareholders demanding quarterly profits, no Wall Street pressure to push higher margin products. Just Jack Bogle's original principles, unchanged for 50 years. Think about goals, stay balanced, keep costs low, and be disciplined. That consistency shows up in the numbers. In 2025, Vanguard ranked number 1 in brand trust in the J.D. Power Investor Satisfaction Study. 73% of people give Vanguard a 9 or 10 out of 10 for reputation. For context, Apple sits at 39%. That structure produced a brand people trust at a level that crushes Berkshire Hathaway, Apple, and Fidelity. So when Colin rose through the ranks to become Vanguard's first global CMO in 2018, he wasn't just managing a brand, he was stewarding one of the most trusted names in finance. But he didn't walk into a perfectly oiled machine. He walked into a fragmented function with outdated and expensive infrastructure.
We didn't have a marketing tech stack. We had a marketing, like all these mini tech stacks all over the place. And in my previous role, I could buy a piece of marketing technology just for my own, business department. But we had 3 of this and 2 of that and 5 of those. And one person liked one analytics system, another person liked another analytics system.
So Colin did what any sane CMO would do. He asked for a large amount of funding.
I convinced the organization to give me money to rip it all out and redo the entire tech stack and have a single tech stack throughout the firm, and to the extent that we can do it internationally as well. It's not a trivial project, and it's not one where you see the obvious results on day one. An easy example, when you say, I want somebody to build a new website, it's like, right, when you're done, you see the new website. When we were done, we were still sending emails or producing ads or, moving work through the system. And people are like, well, I don't quite understand what I'm getting for that.
Years later, when AI arrived, Vanguard was ready. Not because anyone had planned for it, because the tech stack was already rebuilt.
We obviously didn't know anything about AI per se when we started that in 2018, 2019. But had we not done that, we would not have been able to take advantage of what happened with AI and all the newer technology. We would have had to redo all that and then join the AI boom.
So the tech stack is rebuilt, but Colin wasn't done. The next thing he had to do was define and standardize Vanguard's brand across every division, every region, every channel. And if anyone was going to do that, it was Colin. He'd been at Vanguard since 1990. He grew up speaking Vanguardese. He knew what the brand sounded like because he'd been listening to it for 28 years before he ever took the CMO role. Let's talk about brand for a second. When people say brand, the first thing that comes to mind are logos, taglines, maybe fun social media personas. But at a company like Vanguard, brand is more than just what something looks or sounds like.
It's an amazing example of the idea that brand is not just a logo, a color, a website. It is the entirety of everything that makes that company unique and different and how you experience that. It might be the best example I could think of off the top of my head if someone were to ask me that.
And when you have a company managing $13 trillion in assets with marketers all over the globe, keeping that brand consistent is a challenge.
Although we had distinctive divisions, those messages in each of those divisions play against each other. So we have one very successful division that sells to largely independent financial advisors and bank advisors. And if we're marketing something to them, they are very likely also an individual investor with Vanguard. And if we say something on the individual investor side that says, oh, Vanguard is great at this, or you have to come to Vanguard for this, and they're actually on the other side trying to sell to their own clients the same thing. It's like, well, wait a minute. I'm a client on one side, I'm buying your product on another side. Those things sound rather at odds with each other.
Colin also had to be the person who said no, not to bad work, but to good work that wasn't Vanguard.
From a Vanguardese standpoint, we are seen as a serious brand, and you can't be silly in your messaging. You can't be goofy. I would see things, or others would see things, where people would try to be trendy or try to say things that were a bit tongue-in-cheek. And Jack Bogle was not a tongue-in-cheek kind of guy. And Jack would stop me in the hallway when he was still alive and ask me why we're spending all this money on marketing. I said, well, Jack, you were the best marketer we ever had. We're just spending all this money to replace you, because his messages were what cut through everything.
As marketing leaders, one of the hardest things to do is kill something that is good and maybe creative and interesting and actually resonates, but isn't on brand. That's a big part of the job, right? Just really being that steward and shepherd.
It is a big part of the job.
So, the tech stack is rebuilt. The brand is defined and standardized. Both done before AI was even in the picture. And then AI shows up. But there's a catch.
I'm going to put you here. If you're worried about the sea of sameness, AI might compound it, but you probably weren't different enough to begin with. That's an interesting and provocative statement. Can you explain more about what you mean there?
Some of the things we're seeing with AI, obviously, is your ability to produce a lot more, your ability to go quicker, certainly your ability to target specific client bases. But that messaging that you have, AI also takes what you have said and says it again. That's a bit the beauty sometimes of being fast and training a system to speak like you. Well, if you've never spoken in a way that's distinctive, then You're not going to create it by putting AI on top. You still need the human interaction. And if you haven't done that already, then it's going to be really hard because the system's going to pick up everything that you've said before and put a bit of a spin on it, but say it again and say it many, many, many times. It's like, well, it's just reproducing your lack of distinctiveness.
In other words, AI doesn't create your brand voice. It amplifies whatever's already there. If your brand is generic, AI just scales the genericness. But Vanguard had done the work. They knew what they sounded like. So the question became, could you train an AI to speak Vanguardese?
Once it was explained how you're doing this, that you are actually training a system to speak like you. You do that with people. You hire somebody new and it's like, here's how we want to say things. And when you can suddenly train the system to do that, and you can put in new inputs, etc., it just becomes, from a standpoint of a company like Vanguard, which is one, incredibly successful, but two, still has high aspirations and goals and is growing and is expanding products and looking for new clients. And that's, on the one hand, a marketer's dream. It's like, that's great. A company that's going like this is great. On the other hand, it's like, oh my gosh, how am I going to get all that work done? How am I going to get all these messages out there? And now a system that can do this for you, it just almost seemed too good to be true. But of course, now we know it's true.
Building enterprise-grade AI shouldn't be complicated. It should just work the right way. At Writer.com, we don't do everything. We do one thing. We build enterprise AI that unites business and IT. Business teams, build your own AI agents. No code required. IT teams, manage just one platform, not a plethora of point solutions. Writer.com creates AI tools that are safe, scalable, and smarter every time you use them. That's why Accenture, Qualcomm, Vanguard, and hundreds more aren't just doing enterprise AI the right way. They're doing it the Writer way. Book your demo at writer.com/demo.
Every CMO knows the fight. You go to the CFO and make the case for brand investment. The CFO asks for ROI. You explain that brand doesn't work like that. The CFO asks again. And within the marketing org itself, there's tension. Performance marketing can show numbers. Brand can't, or at least not the kind of numbers that satisfy a spreadsheet. Colin lived this for decades.
People would make the argument to me years ago, does that high-level marketing work? There's a lot of people who intellectualize their way to thinking that they're not impacted by marketing messages. We're all impacted by marketing messages. And now those people that would intellectualize that are also the ones who are out there making sure that they're using LLMs to get their answers to their questions and their buying decisions. What are those LLMs listening to? They're listening to all that. But you may not have to be doing it yourself, watching TV and listening to these ads or whatever, but the LLMs are. They're listening to all these ads and all the social media, and it's passing through.
And this is where the landscape has shifted. LLMs aren't just looking at what you say about yourself. They're looking for what everyone else says about you.
The engines are, frankly, smarter. And so they're looking for more evidence that your brand or your product should be served up as an answer to whomever is asking the question. And Google tried to do this. What's the relevancy? And they were, it was all good intent from their standpoint as well. But now it's expanded. So it's looking for third parties. It's looking at social media. It's looking at Reddit. It's looking for press. It's looking for endorsements. And it's just becoming more comprehensive.
Colin says you actually have to spend more money on high-level branding now, not less. And he knows how that lands in a boardroom.
Well, wait a minute. Why do we have to do that? We've got this. Well, you need to get that very distinctive brand message out. You still need to do that. And whether you're using AI to do that, but you need humans to do that. You've got to spend money at the top of the funnel, perhaps even more so. And it's not any easier for a CMO to go convince people to give them money at the top of the funnel sometimes.
But Diego sees an opening. The same CMOs who've been losing the brand budget fight for years just got a new argument.
For the marketers listening, I think a big takeaway is this should help you sell the value of doing this work inside your company more easily than it might have been before. You should take advantage of that. You should leverage that. When you go to your CFO and your CEO, this is good marketing. I think AI visibility gives you a good flank on which to make that argument that wasn't around 3 years ago.
There's a trap here. The first instinct with AI is to use it for efficiency, reduce headcount, cut costs, show quick wins on a spreadsheet. Colin admits that's exactly where Vanguard started.
It's certainly how we started at first, saying, oh, we're going to go do this and we're going to be able to, reduce heads here through not hiring or however we're going to do it. Again, while that was true in some cases, the work ticks up in other places. But we really eventually figured out, and others are figuring this out, you can get higher quality, you can go faster, you can target better.
Colin's CEO gave him a piece of advice that reframes the whole conversation.
Their CEO once said to me, when I was talking about efficiency once, like, that would be great if you could do that. On the other hand, if you can add a 0 to the revenue line, that would be a lot better.
So, the case for brand is stronger than it's been in years. The search engines are rewarding exactly what brand marketing was always trying to do. And the efficiency trap is real. If you only focus on cutting costs, you'll miss the chance to grow revenue. But none of this happens in a vacuum. You still have to lead people through a change that scares them.
One of the things I think people probably make the mistake of doing is try to convince hundreds and hundreds of people. This stuff just, as much as people want to think it does, it just doesn't change overnight. So starting with a small group who's really into it and having them innovate and then kind of expand out. I had a 500-600 person organization, try to take the whole organization and turn it on a dime. It's just, one, it wouldn't work anyway, but it's like, you just can't do it.
This is where Colin's 36 years matter. He's been through this before. Not AI specifically, but the pattern. New technology arrives, people resist, leaders panic, the hype cycle screams that everything is changing overnight. It never changes overnight.
I remember, just a bit of an aside, when we were developing some of the web capabilities and the iPhone came out, there were people at Vanguard who didn't want to create an app. It's crazy to think of that now, but it's like, will people ever use it? We don't want people day trading on Vanguard, all this sort of stuff. And it's like, no, we created the app. Vanguard has now thousands and thousands more people than it did back then. It didn't take anybody's job.
The hype cycle around AI feels more existential than the iPhone. This past spring, commencement speakers were booed off stages for telling graduates to embrace AI. The people entering the workforce see it as a threat, not an opportunity. But Colin has the perspective of someone who's watched this movie before.
People are listening to the hype cycle in the news, and we're recording this in the summer. And so what just happened, we had all these people doing graduation speeches all throughout the US. And how many of them did you see on social media talking about AI and the specter of AI and all this sorts of stuff? And yep, AI is real and it's going to have a huge impact. But the world has been through lots of innovative technological changes and continues to move forward. And we're not replacing everybody's job in September. It's going to be a slower burn than people think.
The real question your team is asking isn't whether AI will replace them. It's what they're worth in a marketing function that runs on AI. And right now, most leaders haven't answered that. AI is a tool, not a replacement. It doesn't land because it's reassurance about what AI isn't. It's not an answer to what your people actually want to know. Colin's answer is simpler than that, and it comes from 36 years of watching the world change.
I think it comes back to the same stuff we thought about with the internet and everything. It's like, at the end of the day, there are still people consuming the messages, and we're one of those people. And it's still, does that make sense to us? Does that sound like we want it to sound? There is still, and will, in my opinion, always be a person sitting there who is saying, that's good, that's not good. This sounds like us, that doesn't sound like us. You want the systems to do, but you want to be in control of the systems.
Colin didn't stay calm because he had all the answers. He stayed calm because he had something more durable. He knew what Vanguard was. Not just what it sounded like, but what it stood for, how it was structured, what made it different. He'd known for 36 years. The technology kept changing, The brand didn't. And the people who are most afraid of AI right now are the ones who don't have that anchor. If you know who you are, your principles, your differentiation, your entire identity as a company, AI doesn't threaten your worth. It depends on it. So, how do you stand out when AI makes infinite mediocrity easy? Colin's answer, built over 36 years, is that you don't stand out by using AI better. You stand out by knowing what makes you different before AI ever touches your marketing. The tech stack, the brand definition, the willingness to kill good work that doesn't feel like you. The discipline to spend money at the top of the funnel when everyone is asking you to cut costs. None of that is AI work. It's the work that makes AI work. Colin spent 36 years learning what Vanguard was before he ever had to protect it from infinite mediocrity. You might not have 36 years, but you have Monday morning. So, before you deploy a single AI tool, ask yourself, can you articulate in plain language what makes your brand different? Not a tagline, not a logo, not a tone of voice document. What your company stands for. What makes it distinct? And why anyone should care. If you can't answer that, AI won't fix it. It'll just make it worse. Thanks to Colin Kelton for sharing his story. I'm Alaura Weaver. This is Humans of AI. Humans of AI is presented by Writer. Our hosts are me, Alaura Weaver, Director of Enterprise Content, and Diego Lomanto, Chief Marketing Officer. Our producer is Alana Nevins. Our graphic designer is Mila Odor. Our social media manager is Tasha Thakar. Our video editor is Jamie Watkins. If this episode got you thinking about things in a new way, please share it with a friend, leave a review, and subscribe to hear more stories of humans working at the crossroads of technology and business.